This week on Peacemaker, still no white supremacist universe, but a lot of doors that will eventually probably go there. So let's talk about everything that happened in episode 4 of season 2 of James Gunn's new DCU's Peacemaker, episode titled Need I Say Door. Also, my cat Mortimer is on my lap. You say hi, Mortimer. He loves to say hi. Oh my god, he's just like the eagle. He's just here because he wants to hang out, and he really appreciated how Eagly tried to open the fridge on his own. Mortimer's never tried to do that, and I hope he doesn't get any ideas. So just want to do a quick recap of this week's Peacemaker. Not a ton that was revealed here. Relatively short episode. I am curious. I don't think we know what the episode times are yet, especially for 6, 7, and 8. We're getting kind of short episodes in the beginning of this season. I'm wondering because, again, the narrative that we have heard is episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one thing. 6, 7, 8, the next thing in that, like, kind of the next step there, but also a very different thing. And part of me wonders, based on the way the season is, like, constructed, it sort of feels like between 5 and 6, that should be the midpoint of the season. That should be where we are right now, which makes me wonder, like, when you put together all the lengths of the episodes, if maybe the episodes at the end of the season are longer, and these episodes, some of them in the beginning of the season, are shorter. So while where we are now should feel like the midpoint of this season, I wouldn't be surprised if that will be at the end of next week's episode. And like when you add together how long all the episodes are, we're not even halfway through the season yet. That's just like a thought I had. I don't know. My overall thoughts on this episode, I think it's fine. This is definitely bridging stuff that happened last week and this consequences of that. And we're setting up some confrontations I'm very excited about, but we didn't get a whole lot of new information here. We definitely didn't learn anything else about Earth 2, the other Earth that Peacemaker was on. I imagine we will learn that later. Yeah, I could possibly feel more vindicated in my theory that this is Earth X or Earth 10. I feel, I still feel pretty good about that. One thing that happened this week that I thought was so crazy, an extra who was on that shoot did an AMA on the DC subreddit and answered questions. And the top question was like, hey, was everyone white? What do you think of that? And he was like, yes, everybody was white. We noticed it. We didn't think we were in the Nazi universe because it wasn't clear to us. The way I remember this post, the way it wasn't clear to us that we were in an alternate universe. But now that you say it, I kind of buy into that, version of the story. So, the extras seem to believe it. That's a good sign. We did get the introduction in the beginning of this episode of the door, the quantum unfolding chamber, the interdimensional portal thingy that Peacemaker's dad and then Peacemaker are able to use to access their little hiding spot for their helmets, but also all the other dimensions if they were to do that. We see it's being held by an alien that gets shot, and it's very gory, and also you can see like its little genitals, so we're not going to show that. But it's not a specific alien race I would say that I'm familiar with in DC Comics. There are a lot of DC Comics alien races, but like none of the big ones, at least. You don't see this and go, oh my god, that's supposed to be a Martian. It seems like he does just take random new stuff and put it into these movies, right? Where like the kaiju in Superman, in another version of that movie, that could have been Titano the Super Ape or something like that, but James Gunn just like make it a weird looking kaiju. And I don't know exactly, what his rationale is for that, but I do think it means people like myself can read far into things that are just like a silly design that James Gunn wanted to do. I think that's probably what we're looking at here. The same way that I think the alien that Peacemaker has already interacted with, the kind of xenomorph-esque alien from the quantum unfolding chamber, also I don't think is anything specific. But we can see the quantum unfolding chamber and a little carrying case that you can use to reset it, I guess, and put it somewhere else. Handy. I like this revelation that Auggie did not build it, because I have seen this conversation a lot on the DCU subreddit and all that from like DC power scalers talking about who's the smartest character in the new DCU. And I swear I'd seen one recently that was like Lex Luthor, Mr. Terrific, Auggie from Peacemaker. It's like, I don't think he is though. Not because I don't think, there's something to having a racist character also be smart in terms of like technology to show like, people that make technology, that doesn't mean they're, good people. Like could still have messed up views. That's something. But then the way that Auggie acted and spoke, I just never got the sense that he was that kind of super genius character. It did always seem a little weird that he had this quantum unfolding chamber, and now it makes more sense he found it. We also get the little conversation with Adabio because she, like many of us, believed Auggie made the quantum unfolding chamber. But then she's like, okay, so didn't your dad make the helmets then? Because like, where do you get those? It seems like you have a bunch of them, and they do weird stuff like turn you into a human torpedo or just like a big sonic boom. Even the X-ray vision is a pretty impressive thing the way that yours works. So like, where does that come from? And there's no explanation. Part of me thought that the explanation that we would be given, like Chris seems to know what the actual answer is and doesn't want to say it, which could be just because it's embarrassing. It could just be some messed up secret like Mr. Terrific, made them all and his dad just stole them or something. And like it could be something like that. I kind of assumed if we never got an answer about this, he just got them from the other Peacemaker. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Auggie had explored the quantum unfolding chamber a little bit, found all these Peacemaker helmets, and just started taking them and just put them in his little Peacemaker area. Then the other Peacemaker's like, what happened to that helmet? That weird alien thing must have took it and put it in its incinerator. Might as well make a new helmet. Especially because there's helmets like the human torpedo helmet or the activate anti-gravity helmet that like don't really work the way that Peacemaker wants. Like, it doesn't seem like that is something that Auggie would build, because it's like, what's the utility there? And it does feel like another thing that he found. I've heard people say, and I've seen this theory popping up all over this week, that the quantum unfolding chamber is a boom tube or something, which I don't hate, and that the helmets are related to Orion, the son of Darkseid, who is the hero that many people are familiar with from the New God stories. He does have a very similar helmet. It's like metal and silver. It covers more of your face than just like a traditional helmet. It's kind of also a mask. I think that is an interesting idea. I do not think that fits in with where the new DCU is right now and where any DC comic universe would be at this point. What I mean is, I think the idea that James Gunn, who has got the opportunity to pretty much build this whole new DCU from scratch, the idea that he is going to build to Darkseid in his first arc, or even just his second arc, feels unnecessary, because DC Comics has a lot of villains that can be the big threat. Brainiac, Despero, the Anti-Monitor, like there's a bunch of characters that can be that big universal threat. Darkseid is the only one that is specifically tied to the old DCU, where it's like, do you really want to just do that again? Do your own thing, and then maybe once we've got a little bit of space from the old DCEU, then the new DCU goes and does the Darkseid story. But it just doesn't feel like such an essential part of comics to me, the same way that Thanos does for Marvel. I understand that Darkseid is important, but I also understand like you can build an entire fictional DC universe for years and years and years and not have to use Darkseid. So why would you? That's just my thought process. Now, we do know we're getting a Mr. Miracle something Mr. Miracle is being worked on. I believe it is animated, and I don't know if it's connected to the new DCU. If that's the case, then like maybe that's what this is building to. But I would be very surprised if the big bad of Phase 1 or even Phase 2 is Darkseid. Because also, while that is a boom tube kind of look, the carrying case doesn't look like a mother box. And the boom tube itself doesn't really look like a boom tube. It looks like what it's described as, like a quantum unfolding chamber, some sort of like pocket reality dimension thing. So I don't know. It just, it doesn't read that way to me. And like James Gunn, if there's still time, just don't do it. You have plenty of alien races. You can do so many different characters that just specifically are not the one guy who everybody associates with the old DCU. And specifically the Snyder Cut and like stuff like that, which is a very specific thing. But I just, it doesn't feel like it's worth it. So we've got basically two parallel stories and like character groups they're following during this episode. One, Chris, Adabio, Vigilante a little bit, Eagly are escaping while they're being pursued by Economos, Flurry, Red St. Cloud, who we'll talk about, Sasha Bordeaux, the Judo Master, and all the Argus forces. The Peacemaker and Adabio stuff in this episode was very good. It was a perfect tone setter for having a character go into this universe in the future and like resetting expectations for like, this isn't definitely going to be perfect. Maybe you don't belong there. And I think personally, I agree with that bio, because I think the universe is the Nazi universe, but also I just like think that in a story like this, the lesson is always the grass isn't always greener. You have to appreciate what you have. On the other hand, I think Chris makes some decent points, which are like, I accidentally killed their brother. I don't want to deprive them of a brother. Like, that's not really what, you being there would do. But, I've heard worse reasons to stay in the alternate universe than that. The same goes for Hardcourt. And the same goes for maybe like this entire universe, right? Like maybe this universe needs Peacemaker in a way that Peacemaker would definitely make the case. The current universe does not, right? Like they don't need Peacemaker if they've got Superman and Green Lanterns and stuff. But from what we've seen, this other universe, Earth X, only has the top trio There might be other superheroes, but either they haven't been mentioned or we haven't seen them. So, like, I think Chris can make the case, my talents are way more useful there than they are here. I like that Adabio made fun of his clothes. I know I saw a lot of comments on the last video when I said that, like, that design that's on his sleeve is like, I said it's not a swastika. I know that. It's just a design that is kind of like a swastika, and for that reason, I think it could be a thing that Peacemaker looks back on and is like, oh, that. But I understand that that's not what it is. It is still very tacky and has way too many patterns, and a character like Adabio would see that and go, what the hell are you wearing? So I like the characters react naturally on this show. I also like that, like, Adabio, again, is ride or die for Peacemaker. Like, he calls you and is like, come get me, and it's clearly some illegal thing, but, like, she does it because she's a good friend. And Vigilante is just there with a door. If you call him and you're like, hey, bring me doors, he will do that, which is great. He also brings hinges. I wouldn't think you would need hinges, because I would just assume where the door's going, there's already hinges there. What happened was we broke the door, but the hinges are still working. But, I mean, that's how good of a guy he is. I don't know a lot about doors. I assume most doors are the same size. And, like, if someone said, bring me a door, you would go to Home Depot or Lowe's and be like, hey, I need a door. And they would be like, do you have any special dimensions? And you'd be like, door size? And they go, all right, it's probably one of these. That's my guess. I never bought a door. Also, there's this whole thing about, like, Chris, they're after you. They're trying to find you. You got to run away. So that's what Economos says. And Peacemaker's like, okay. And he has to hide the quantum unfolding chamber by putting it somewhere else. Sure. But I have a feeling we'll get this in the next episode. Like, the idea that they go anywhere and expect it to be a secret is just doesn't make sense, because they automatically found it originally. They weren't even looking for it, and it just came up when it was activated, and they found out it was at his house. So I'm sure they're going to do that with this. Even if Red St. Cloud didn't know where they were hiding, you would just assume, if you're Peacemaker at a bio, like, they're going to find this in 5 minutes. So we got to do something immediately. Like, we definitely don't have time to go visit Hardcourt, but we'll get to it. And then on the other side, we had the Economos storyline, which I thought was pretty good. I like Steve Agee, and I like that this version of the character, he's become more confident, more aggressive, and he's just not getting walked over by all these guys who call him names and stuff. I will say, I like the Judo Master costume mostly. I think the face is weird. It needs more definition or something, because it looks like just a big plastic face on this guy. Loved Economos getting Flurry in trouble with Bordeaux, and then later in the episode, spitting on him. That really surprised me as I was watching it live. I watched the Peacemaker podcast afterwards, and I saw that apparently to make that spit work, and, like, if you watch it, you don't see the character actually, it's not like one continuous shot. They had, like, a compressed air gun with, like, jelly in it or something that they fired at Tim Meadows' face, which is like, that's pretty serious. And then, like, when you watch it again knowing that, it's like, yeah, that is way too strong for a spit. One human being spitting on another. I think I would know that, you know, anytime in the year, but especially right after the football season started with one guy spitting on another guy. And it's like, man, Economos, he's got to go challenge Gaston for expectorating, because, like, he's got a talent for it. Red Saint Wild, by the way, I realize I've been saying Red Saint Cloud, but I mean Wild. That's his name. It doesn't matter, because this is not an established character. And for anybody that's confused about, like, why this is Michael Rooker, according to James Gunn, they had someone, much like with Vigilante last season, they had someone who filmed it and then they liked him, but, like, it just didn't work. So they called Michael Rooker at the last minute, like, can you do this? And then he did, which kind of maybe explains why he's dressed the way that he is. I think he's a fun character because he seems like a kook until he actually does magic. And this is the first time we've seen magic done in Peacemaker. We saw some of it in Creature Commandos with Cersei, and then I don't think we got any magic in the Superman movie, besides, like, the magic of being a good citizen and loving your family and stuff. So with that in mind, it's kind of funny how significant this is, considering A, this character doesn't matter, B, he's definitely not going to matter in the long term, and C, magic is probably going to be a big part of these movies in the future. But, like, yeah, if you ask, like, first magic user in the new DCU, Cersei. Second one, Red Saint Wild. Somewhere down the line, Constantine, Zatanna, the actual magic users. But first we had to get Red Saint Wild out. You know, he's that kind of character where he's racist and stuff, but the joke is that he's racist, and I don't know. These characters pop up in James Gunn stuff a lot, and it is kind of funny to see characters make fun of him. I did think Michael Rooker was pretty funny in this episode, and not as much in the car, but I actually really liked the way he reacted to Economos telling him another eagle came out. It felt like what, like, an improv bit feels like, where the second player, the person reacting to the statement, knows it's funny that they said that and wants to kind of have some fun with that. But I like that Michael Rooker played it play it very straight. And apparently maybe Eagly is the prime eagle, which he's a pretty smart eagle. So I don't think that's a crazy, if the prime eagle exists, but like this guy has magic that works. So why wouldn't the prime eagle exist? And I assume he did the prime eagle spell to find the prime eagle and with his little dance and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's probably what Eagly is. It would be pretty funny if like the end game for this storyline is Eagly in a face-off with Red St. Wild, like summons an army of eagles that all just come and get him. I also saw on the Peacemaker podcast, this I thought was interesting. Tim Meadows was talking about bird blindness. Somebody asked, like, how bird blind is he? He can obviously see like a hummingbird and see an ostrich. And like, do they look the same to him? Do they not even look one big, one small? And the way James Gunn described it, it's like, it's just kind of a blurry thing. So like in that situation, you probably could see the difference. I think that makes sense. But like, yeah, you can't see the difference, I guess, between eagle and duck. And yeah, I like that Economos is covering for Peacemaker. And just in general, I think this episode, it was a little bit of a couple of things, but I would say you could maybe make the case that this is Steve Agee's episode to like really show how much this character has developed since we saw him for the first time in the Suicide Squad. I don't think he was in regular Suicide Squad. It had to have been the original James Gunn one. And like, it's not nothing. He's done a lot. Also, like the cat in the wall thing, I just want to yell at Economos, like, hey, just pretend it's more dangerous than it is. Be like, hey, I just want to double check my calculations here, because if we open up this thing and it doesn't work, we blow up the whole world. So like, I get that you really want to open this, but it seems like the reason you're so worried about it is the same. Like, why would you assume he can move it? Why wouldn't you just go like, we've got it now, so we should be extra careful with it, as opposed to like, he's gonna reset it and put it somewhere else? Like, why would you assume he could do that? Why wouldn't it just be like, we'll open it soon? I want to tell Sasha Bordeaux how to do her job. And then the other thing this episode focused on was Hardcourt and Rick Flag Sr. So I love this. I was not expecting to see these two interact. Like, I knew right now what their relationship would be like, and it is like this. Like, he is like the kind of father-in-law, and like, it's weird because they weren't dating, but they were clearly really good friends. So like, she would have known Rick Flag Sr. And Rick Flag Sr., like we've been saying for so long, seems like a pretty decent guy, even though he does dumb things sometimes, but like, he doesn't seem like a villain. And like, I did not get the sense in this conversation that he was trying to even really manipulate her. I think he was kind of going in with like, hey, I got something to help you. And also, I'm a little worried about you because of like what's going on in your house. Like, you have to sell your television or whatever. So now she's going to be the decoy for Peacemaker to get caught eventually. And I think that makes sense. And I guess that's interesting because I just kind of figured the end of episode 5 would be Chris taking someone into the new universe, and they would see that there's no black people, and they'd be like, what's going on? But now, like, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe Chris gets captured, and maybe Adabio and Vigilante are like, we have to go into the other universe to get stuff, and maybe even his brother to come rescue him, and then that's how they get into that universe. And like, within a second of getting into that universe, everybody would, immediately like point at Adabio and be like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be able to be out, in this district or whatever the racism would, set up. So like, that could be the deal. And maybe like Adabio and Vigilante go into the quantum unfolding chamber and we don't see what happens, but Peacemaker has to go rescue them because he can tell something bad happened. Like, he's like, they should have been back by now. I just had them, go in to get a couple of helmets or something. So like, yeah, where have they been? Listen, I'm not trying to like predict the future episodes. I do believe we will get the revelation about Earth X or Earth 10 in the beginning of 6 or the end of 5. So we'll find out soon. So yeah, not my favorite episode, but solid and moving in the right direction towards what I think is going to be a very exciting, very entertaining back half of the season. And you know what else is entertaining? Is Nebula. Because Nebula, as I'm sure you know by now, but if you have not heard of it before, is a subscription streaming service that me and a bunch of my YouTuber friends helped to create. Is a platform where we're free to not have to worry about the algorithm. I put all my videos, my Nando V Movies videos, and my Nando Cut videos up early. So if you want to see my next video now, which is about the Serpent Society in the MCU and why that's kind of a mess, you can watch that early, or you can wait until it comes onto YouTube in like, I don't know, like couple weeks, a month or whatever. Like, who wants to wait? It's fun to watch stuff now. This video was early on Nebula. You can watch it, maybe a couple hours early, but still, all the videos early, ad free. You can download them on your phone, so that's nice. You don't have to worry about like taking up all the data. But then the most exciting thing right now is our production of Nebula originals. So these are like movies, short films, plays, documentaries. These are all created by Nebula. So these are our people. These all tend to be projects the creators are really passionate about. And we're able to put out like some really cool stuff. Patrick Willems has a short film coming out very soon that they just put a teaser out for called The Dinner Plan, which like, it's not out yet, but like I've talked to Patrick about it. It's very fun. I don't want to just like tell you everything about it, but like it's cool. And it has people you definitely recognize, like John Hodgman's in it, Zach Cherry is in it. And then we have another show coming out called Subliminal, which Patrick directed an episode of, which I wrote an episode of. It is an anthology. You will see so much stuff for it in the future. When the trailer is out, I will be sharing it constantly. But if you want to, A, see all our videos early, get access to all of that, and B, help us creators make all this cool stuff that we could not make by ourselves, give Nebula a look because it's great and it is a steal at $60 a year or $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. That is just $3 a month. It is an incredible deal. Go check it out now. All right, so thank you everybody for watching. I will see you next week for more Peacemaker stuff and also videos about other things between now and then. So just like and subscribe and all that stuff. And then I will see you soon. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.